So recently, Klaus Schwab announced that he's going to be stepping down from the World Economic Forum January of 2025, and there's a leading candidate that may replace him whose books have sold 45 million copies in 65 different languages. His name is Yuval Harari. He's been called the brain of Klaus Schwab. His books have been recommended by Bill Gates, Obama, and many others. This is a guy that's known by many of the world leaders, prime ministers. He wrote a book called Sapiens, sold over 21 million copies. Homo Deus sold over 9 million copies. 21 Lessons for the 21st Century sold over 5 million copies. He's someone you ought to know, because what we learned in the last few years is the amount of power Klaus Schwab has with Davos. If this guy takes over, we have to find out why this gay man born in Israel in 1976 who received a PhD in history from the University of Oxford in 2002, he could potentially have that much power. We're going to talk about him today. So let's go through him. Very unique guy, definitely different than everybody else. He's been openly gay and married to his husband, Itzik Yahav, in Toronto, 2010. They co-founded Sapienship, a social impact company. He practices Vipassana meditation since 2000, which, by the way, I may have butchered the way you pronounce it, but he meditates 2 hours on a daily basis, a vegan. His position on technology, as of 2023, he owns a smartphone only for emergencies and travel. Few things about him: public speaking, delivered keynote speeches at World Economic Forum at Davos, gave him $1 million during pandemic for donation, he and his husband. He's criticized Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, particularly opposing judicial reform plans. He's done a bunch of different things. So he did an interview with The Guardian, a Q&A format. I want to go through a couple of them that I think it's important to cover. What is your greatest fear? That we will destroy our humanity without even realizing that we've lost. Okay, interesting. Which living person do you most admire and why? On a personal level, the friend who is single mom raising 2 kids by herself during this COVID era. She's a real hero. If a historical personality is what we're talking about, I choose Mikhail Gorbachev, who probably saved the world from World War III. What is your most treasured possession? My body. What would your superpower be? Being able to observe things as they really are. Okay. What did you want to be when you were grown up? Very interesting answer. Loved. What is your guiltiest pleasure? I don't feel guilty about pleasure. When's the last time you changed your mind about something significant? This year with COVID. I'm a big believer in the need for global cooperation on major problems, and watching the world over the past year made me realize it's going to be much, much harder than I thought, and maybe even impossible. Tell us a secret. The people who run the world don't understand it. He's around the people who run the world. So he's saying the people who he's around don't understand how the world runs. Interesting. In another interview, he's asked what comes after, meaning what comes after life. He says, I'm not sure. I haven't managed to go much beyond what was in Homo Deus, in which Harari discussed the emerging religion of dataism. Dataism declares that the universe consists of data flows, and value of any phenomenon or entity is determined by its contribution to data processing. He's talked about the rise of the useless class, us. Harari discusses the impact of AI on a workforce, suggesting that AI and automation will render many jobs obsolete. He's not alone there. Other people believe it as well. He introduces the concept of a useless class, referring to a large segment of the population that could become unemployed due to technological advancement. He emphasized the need to develop new economic, social, and educational systems to support those affected by these changes as traditional job structures are transformed. We got to learn a little bit about his father and the relationship, which is kind of a little bit gray. We don't know much about it. From the age of 8, Harari attended a school for bright students, 2 bus rides away from his family's house in Kiryat Ata. Yuval's father, who died in 2010, was born on a kibbutz and maintained a lifelong skepticism about socialism. His work as a state-employed armaments engineer was classified by the standards of the town. The Harari household was bourgeoisie and bookish. They were rich. They were known as having money and being successful. He built out of wood blocks and formica tiles a huge map of Europe on which he played war games of his own invention. Harari told this individual that interviewed him that during his adolescence, against the backdrop of his first infidel, he went through a period when he was a kind of a stereotypical right-wing nationalist. He recalled his mindset: Israel as a nation is the most important thing in the world, and obviously we are right about everything, and the whole world doesn't understand us and hates us So we have to be strong and defend ourselves. He laughed, you know, the usual stuff. This next part's a little bit interesting, so brace for impact. One reason he chose to study outside of Israel was to start a new life. As a gay man, on weekends he went to London nightclubs. I think I tried, he says this, ecstasy a few times, and he made dates online. He set himself the target of having sex with at least one new partner a week. Very aggressive, competitive. To make up for lost time and also understand how it works, because I was very shy, he laughed. Very strong discipline. He treated each encounter as a credit and a ledger. So if one week I had 2 and next week there were 0, I'm okay. Like an accountant, CPA. Very interesting. He says here, within the next century or two, we humans are likely to upgrade ourselves into gods. You could be a god and change the most basic principles of the evolution of life. He says, I titled the book Homo Deus because we really are becoming gods. In the most literal sense possible, we are acquiring abilities that have always been thought to be divine abilities, in particular the ability to create life, and we can do with that whatever we want. The main products of the future economy will not be food, textiles, and vehicles, but rather
the big product of the 21st century are going to be bodies and minds.
So where's it going with this? I mean, here's what it says. Harari's vision for the future: dictatorship. One of the dangers of 21st century is that machine learning and artificial intelligence will make centralized systems much more efficient than distributed systems, and dictatorships might become more efficient than democracies.
The revolution in information technology will make dictatorships more efficient than democracies.
Dictatorships might become more efficient than democracies. Do you want a dictatorship? He's saying it may be more efficient. If you don't want them, this guy may be the leader of World Economic Forum. This is what he's going to be talking about when he's selling books. They sell. When he writes books, tens of millions of copies get sold. You need to kind of know what these guys have in mind for vision for you. I mean, listen, if you're inspired already, stick around. You're going to be motivated even more. Here's one for you. I strongly believe that given the technologies we are now developing, within a century or two, at most, our species, you, will disappear. You're going to disappear. I don't think that in the end of the 22nd century, the earth will still be dominated by Homo sapiens. Here's why he thinks there's a big challenge with the useless class based on how he sees it. Watch this. The useless class possesses a threat to community peace primarily because they will lack both a means of income. How are you going to make money? Everything's being done better than you in AI. And a sense of purpose. If you're not making money, you're not doing a job, what is the purpose of life? Why do I exist? What can I do? All the other machines are doing a better job than me. That's kind of what he's talking about. The emergence of two distinct classes, these employed in the AI-driven roles and unemployed, the useless class, will exacerbate social inequalities and could lead to discontent and unrest. Even if governments provide financial support to the unemployed, the psychological effects of lacking purpose need considerations such as how to address their potential boredom and dissatisfaction. Harari highlights a fundamental educational challenge. The uncertainty of future job markets makes it difficult to determine what skills should be taught in schools today. It's actually a good point. What should we be teaching in schools today? While AI revolution might create new jobs, these are likely to be high-skilled positions, leaving those previously in lower-skilled jobs unable to transition easily. Drugs and computer games. You ready for this? The biggest question, what to do with all these useless people? Okay.
Now we see the creation of a new massive class of useless people.
The problem is boredom and what to do with them when they are worthless. My best guess is a combination of drugs and computer games. Really? Drugs and computer games? And the whole UBI thing, remember when Andrew Yang was talking about UBI? Here's what he talks about UBI. UBI involves taxing large corporations and the wealthy to fund regular, unconditional payments to all citizens, aiming to provide a safety net for everyone. So let me tell you how I process this. I process it a couple different ways. One, I'm a man of faith. I think the future looks bright, period. I'm optimistic. I'm team human. I think you and I are wired in a way to consistently look for new solutions and way to rewire ourselves. And he's not for somebody that says, recreate yourself, my ass. That's his line. He doesn't believe you can recreate yourself. If your job as a truck driver is replaced by a machine that can do your job, et cetera, how are you going to go replace yourself is what he's saying. Now, the point is right if you're not proactive way before that comes. So, just like jobs, if right now your kid's about to go to college and you say, son, you should go get a degree on being a, I don't know, great typewriter. Go be a great person that can type 80 words per minute. What value does that have today? You may say, well, I want you to go start a newspaper company. A newspaper company, you wouldn't ask your kid to do that today, but maybe 80 years ago, different story. 100 years ago, working for the radio, are you kidding me today? What are you gonna do working for radio? You wanna go work for radio today? It's not the same as it was before, right? So you need to adjust on career planning for yourself, your company, your kids, your family. These are the types of conversations you need to be having. But just so you know, if you are gonna live your day-to-day life and not pay attention to who is coming up, to having power of making decisions that may dictate the way you live, and you're not paying attention to this, then you deserve what they end up doing to you. It is our job to be proactive and study these folks and see what they're imposing, because many, tens of millions of people listen to a guy like this and say, this guy went to Oxford. He must know what he's talking about. You know what? Dictatorship is better than democracy. I think that's what we should do. Yeah, you know what? We should tax all these big companies. Forget these rich people. They're useless idiots anyways. They're worthless. Yeah, I'm with this guy. If you don't have a counter argument for this, and he's got that influence, he's eventually going to have influence over you, your kids, your family, and your community. So you got to be aware of what's going on, because only the paranoid survive. If you got value out of this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. And if you've not seen his boss, because we go a little bit deeper into what the World Economic Forum is, you may want to watch the video we did on Klaus Schwab. If you've not seen it, click here to watch it. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye, bye-bye.